Good morning, and it's time for the pre-market PulseScan with yours truly, Dex the Algo Capitalist, aka the Vulcan, coming to you live from PulseWaveTrading.com, home of the world famous PulseWave price trigger reports that we place in your hand each and every trading day. That's what we do. Hopefully everyone had a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful weekend. Hopefully you were able to, decompress, relax, chill with friends and family, because that is what the weekend is all about, right? So that you can chill, do things that bring you joy and peace and all that good stuff. And now it's time to get back to work. The chill time is over. Now it's the age of the orc. Time to get back, roll them sleeves up, and jump into these markets. After all, you have a lot to deal with this morning. Even though the news, as far as market stuff, it's really not a whole lot going on. Last week, we had, what was it? Last week, I believe it was. We had the FOMC, and so you had all that stuff. Yeah, the week before, I mean. And then you had all these other things. Of course, the deadline has gone, and now we're dealing with the aftermath of the first lockdowns. We're talking about a part two, a 2.0 of these things, and it's just what it is, man. It is what it is. We are in a brave new world, and every day is new. Every day is different, and it's just whatever. You just have to, like, you're trying to be, reactive and play defense, but on the flip side, you want to play as much offense as possible. But it is what it is. What can I say? We just have to deal with what we got to deal with. Um, there's some weird news, though, of course, and it comes from our um, normal stuff. But it's gonna be what it's gonna be. It's a potpourri. We got a little potpourri going on, but we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. I just want to give everyone a quick message too. We came into today uh, a little bit different than we normally come into a Monday. Um, we have a few market things going on at play right now in force. So the heads up is that I do believe that a pullback will probably be imminent as early as tomorrow in gold and natural gas and in the Russell. Yep. And yeah. Just I know. It is what it is. You don't want to hear all that, but you got to be warned. Forewarned is forearmed. I don't think we'll manifest those initiation pullbacks today. I think it'll be a day or two delayed, but I think it's pulling back, and I think gold and silver have the potential to pull back aggressively. Uh, right now, looking like gold is in a place that it could possibly pull back first, and then have silver to follow suit. So we'll see. Just want to give y'all the heads up on that. You never know. That's why the reports are critical, because it lets us know when things are about to evolve. And that's what we deal with here at the PulseWave Report Station. That's right. So, with that being said, let's take a look at these overnight markets, shall we? All right, so let's see here. We got the Dow right now up 80 points at 27,412. We got the NASDAQ 100 up 4.25 points at 11,127 even. We got the E-mini S&P 500 up 2 points at 3346 3/4. We got the Russell My Hustle up 6.1 points at 1572.3. We got the mighty Bitcoin Futures Composite Index up 440 points, trading at 12,015. Overnight highs 12,220. Bitcoin showing mad strength. Nat gas down a penny at $2.21. Oil up 65 cents at $41.87 a barrel. Long bond is up 10/30 seconds at 181.29. That's 181 and 29/30 seconds. We got gold futures up $15.20, trading at $2,043.10 an ounce. And we got silver up a buck, trading at $28.54 an ounce. And then we got the US dollar index up 7 pips at 93.51. We got the euro dollar down 19 pips at 117.72. Pound sterling, excuse me, is up 15 pips at 130.70. And we got the Aussie up 17 pips at 71.67. We got the Canadian dollar down 11 pips at 133.71. We got the euro yen down 20 pips at 124.68. We got the dollar yen up 8 pips at 105.98. And the the New Zealand dollar down 4 pips at 66.01. And we got soybeans off a half a point at 8.67 even. Corn is up a quarter point, 3.21 even. And wheat is down 2 points at 4.93 half. All right, so that's the overnight news. Overnight markets there. I'm having some issues signing in right now. Let's see here. Let's see what's up. Can't log into my stuff, and I don't know why. All right, let's see if that'll work. Wow. We've been having like storms, it seems like every evening over here for like 2 weeks straight. And when it knocks out all the power and stuff, you got to re-sign into all your things. And it gets a little annoying. Let's see here. If I can get in here now. All right. Looks like I finally got in here. Let's see what we got. Give me just a second. All right, got it up. Now we may proceed. Okay, so let's see here. Gold could surge over 90% and hit $4,000 so long as these two factors remain under control. The CEO of U.S. Global Investors said central banks are working together like a cartel, and they're all printing trillions of dollars. Yeah, but here's the rub with that. That may be true, but a lot of money is flowing into the US dollar. A lot of big funds are actually backing the US dollar, believe it or not. So that could keep that dollar above 90 easily. So I would not count your chickens before they hatch. They may turn out to be buzzards, like Mama used to say. Fed's Kashari warns that unless a stricter U.S. lockdown is imposed, the last few months could feel just like a warm-up to a greater catastrophe. If we aren't willing to take this action, millions more cases with many more deaths are likely before a vaccine might be available. Now, the Fed is saying this. An agent of the Fed is actually calling for and pushing for, lobbying for a second US lockdown that will be stricter than the first lockdown. They want to totally destroy the economy. The first lockdown didn't go far enough in destroying the economy. They want to make sure that the US is unable to get up. They want to absolutely decimate it. They want to force universal basic income in the United States. They want everyone to be beholden to the federal government. They want to do a lot of dark, dastardly things. So you got agents of the Fed that are really working for the Dark Lord, and they want to bring down every brick of Hogwarts into rubble on the ground. They want to do away with it. All right. So, since these dark forces with reptilian intentions, all right, they want to start voguing in public, all right, and we need to do something about it. We got a bunch of Vesson working at the Fed, and they want to start voguing. They don't care anymore. They want to bring their new world order, even if they have to force it to happen, because they have a plan. They want to destroy the economy on President Trump's watch so that when they get their man or woman in there, they can push forth this New World Order agenda. They figure it's a win-win for them because once they bring down the economy, they can force everyone to go with their plan. So they know exactly what they're doing. But locking down the country would be the catastrophe, not the virus. The virus is not the catastrophe. It's those people behind the virus. Remember, they're the ones that manufactured the virus. They're the ones that created the narrative for the virus. They're the ones that created the strong arm tactics as a result of the virus. They're the ones who destroyed global economies with their lockdowns. And now they're the ones that are pushing for this new world order, which will be a control grid lockdown of the world. They don't want a temporary lockdown because of virus. They want to lock down the world, period. And one of the ways to do that is to get you to lock down physically so they can finish building out their infrastructure with no one being the wiser. Because if you're under martial law in your house and you can't come outside, well, you won't be able to see what they're doing outside. Goldman Sachs lifts their 2021 US GDP forecast to 6.2% and predicts a COVID-19 vaccine will be widely distributed by mid-2021. The bank now projects the U.S. unemployment rate will decline to 6.5% by the end of 2021, down from a previous 7% forecast. The reason why they can make such claims is because, remember, Goldman Sachs is an agent of the Fed. All right? Just like Blackwater, BlackRock, Blackwater, all these people are agents of the Fed. That's why they can speak these things. They can make whatever they want come to pass as far as economic numbers. Don't you ever forget it. The economic numbers always have been and are currently fake. The numbers are manipulated with what your boy Bush would call fuzzy math. All right. So they use these arcane mathematical magic to make the numbers lie, because the real numbers, they don't lie. Numbers are numbers, but they can make the numbers lie by feeding false information into the database. That's how you cheat, is by using a separate set of books. The real books you hide under the bed, but the fake books you keep out in the open, and you're constantly feeding bad data into the mainframe, so it's going to spit out the data you want it to. That's how they do it. and they keep changing the rules on how they do stuff so that they can make it appear any way they need to make it appear. All right, just like the old comic concerning economists. You know, the economist always says, "Well, what do you want the numbers to say?" And they can make the numbers say whatever they need it to say. It's how it works. Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway grew profits by 86% last quarter as its stock portfolio soared in value. Okay. The billionaire investor company posted an 11% drop in revenue, but that was offset by almost $30 billion in investment gains. See how they're manipulating and playing with numbers? Now, they were tearing this man up, saying that he was basically old, senile, and decrepit and needed to step down. He lost his touch. But now they're saying, "Oh, look what he's been able to accomplish." But you called him a clown during the pandemic, though. Said he didn't know what he was doing. But now you're saying, even though they posted an 11% drop in revenue, but the stock price went up, so that's $30 billion in investment gains. Okay, here's how that works. See, they play with words and they play with numbers. Now, hearing that, what? So they had an 11% drop in revenue, but they made $30 billion in investment gains. See, 30 billion sounds bigger than 11% drop. When you say percentage versus a raw number, if the percentage is lower than the raw number, then people will focus on the raw number. 30, the number 30 is greater than the number 11. But what you don't see underneath the hood is, what does 11 represent? If it's 11% of $1 quadrillion, then that 11% is 1,000 times greater than the 30 billion. Now, let's break this down, and I'm going to show you something else. The 11% drop is an actual number, and it's actually etched in stone. It's a solid number. It's a fact that has happened and cannot be changed or undone. Whereas the $30 billion in investment gains is not real money. It's just paper. It's on paper. You don't have the profit in the bank until you take profit. So on paper, if I bought Facebook stock at $100 a share and it goes to $300, I can say, "Look at me. I have generated a 300% return on my investment." No, you haven't, because the investment gains are not real until they are actualized. That's just paper. If the stock price plummets today, then are you going to still say you took a $30 billion investment gain? No, it's just on paper. And you're basing it on a stock price, a raw stock price. Everyone knows until you take profit, that is not real profit. But that 11% drop in revenue, oh, that's real. And that happened, and you can't undo that. You see how they play with these numbers? By the way, that's the opening bell in case somebody needs to handle some business and put up some tickets. Oh, what up, Frank, in the live chat? What up, man? What up? Welcome back. So just understand, when you get these storylines, you gotta look under the hood and do the knowledge to it to see what is it really saying. Don't fall for the okie doke. Okay, let's see here. A Wall Street investment chief warns that new stock market highs could be setting up a historic trap for investors, one that also appeared just before the dot-com crash. The stock market's next record high could be incredibly short-lived, or it may not happen for a while longer, says Doug Ramsey of the Luthold Group. So he's basically saying the stock market may go up, but it may also go down. This guy's a genius. Why did you hear what he said? He said the stock market's going to go up, or it may go down. Man, that dude is on it, man. He just knows what he's talking about. Dude, you just hedged your bets with a 50-50 statement. You said the next record high could be incredibly short-lived. The word could. And he said, or it may not happen for a while longer. So what you did was you said the stock market, if the next high, could be short-lived, or we're not going to get another high for a little while longer. That's the same thing as saying the market may go up or the market may go down. Again, the way they play with these words to try the tricknology that is going into this. All right, the tricknology is off the chain. JP Morgan says buy these 19 diamond in the rough stocks that have plunged from yearly highs, but are spring loaded for huge gains ahead. Eduardo Lucabari says these smaller yet to recover stocks could stand out from broader indexes, look like they're going sideways. First of all, you made fun of Robinhood retail traders for buying bankrupt companies and depressed stocks, and now you're saying it's okay? So it's okay because you said it, but not when they do it. Really? And let me guess. What did I teach you guys about companies? They talk their book. The reason why they're talking about these stocks is because they have a very, very large interest in them in one way or another. Either the company is long the stocks or they've done consulting for these companies and taken huge fees. And in return, they're writing a glowing report, analysis report for them. Yeah, in case you didn't know, you can pay companies like JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs to write glowing reviews for you as long as you consult with them and pay them these enormous consulting fees. And in turn, they'll write a report for you saying that you should buy your company. Yeah, that's an old trick too. Okay, so U.S. and European stocks are up in Europe. Germany's DAX rose 0.3%, and Britain's FTSE 100 rose 0.5%, and the Euro Stoxx 50 rose 0.5%. In Asia, China's Shanghai Composite closed up 0.7%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng fell 0.6%, and Japan's Nikkei fell 0.4% at the close. And here in the States, we're up about 0.3%. As far as the earnings, they keep on coming. Duke Energy, Marriott, and Royal Caribbean Cruises are highlights today. Oh, yeah. And on the data docket, we got the U.S. 3-month and 6-month bill auctions. Yeah, man. I told you, you just never know what is going down. You just never know. It's a lot going on in the world. And not everything is black and white. Not everything is just, out there. Some things you really have to peel back some of the layers, you know what I mean, for lack of a better word. You got to peel back those layers and see exactly what's good, what's really good behind these numbers. And, that takes a little bit of effort and it takes a little bit of work. And not everybody is willing to do the work. And unfortunately, if you don't, you're not going to know what time it is. You're just going to be out of the loop. And that's a painful thing, man. You don't ever want to be out of the loop. Not ever. Because when you're out of the loop, you miss out on, pertinent information and knowledge and wisdom. And you need to have it, because how are you going to play the game if you don't know? It doesn't make any sense. You can't play it. You can't play the game if you don't know and understand the rules. It's going to be impossible for you. All right? So it is what it is. All right. So talking about, Robinhood and all that, as you know, companies like Robinhood, they love to sell your information. They love to make money off of that, because if you're charging zero commissions, you got to make your money some kind of way. There has to be a way for you to get back any lost revenue. It costs money to run a business. It takes money. It's not free. Nothing's free, even though they want you to believe that. But nothing is free. Someone has to pay some type of a cost, either to get the information to you or whatever. It costs money, and you should know that it costs money. So that leads us to our next situation. There's been a lot of talk in the media throughout the years, of course, about sharing your customer data. In healthcare, the issue was sharing patient data, especially, medical diagnoses and things of that nature. And as you know, there was a big talk about that, and how, we need to have privacy and things of that nature. Well, as you know, we are in the age of information, where information is powerful, and information is money. Well, for years, the website at robintrack.net has been doing a great job of mining Robinhood's data to provide raw data and visualization of which stocks the users of the retail brokerage have been holding and disposing of on a daily basis. Now, robintrack.net has been a wonderful way to keep an eye on exactly what stocks the bag holder crowd has been rushing into on a daily basis, providing insight into the hysteria of the retail day traders, allowing hedge funds to likely front run the data, and providing opportunities for short sellers looking for ideas. Now, but those days appear to be all but over. On Friday, CNBC reported that the brokerage will no longer display how many of its users hold a certain stock. In addition, it's going to be taking down its public API data that allows other sites like robintrack.net to source its data for visualization and analysis purposes. Now, the data has been used to show booms in retail stocks. The CNBC report said on Friday, you guys know RobinTrack well. A lot of financial news outlets use it for reporting, including CNBC. Now, Robinhood has said in a statement that even though it is restricting third-party access to its API data, it still has many other tools that its users can offer. Now, trends and data are often misconstrued and misunderstood, Robinhood said. The majority of its users are buy and hold users, not day traders, the brokerage said. Yeah, right. Aside from the PR spin of trying to position itself as a serious brokerage and not a casino app for unemployed day traders, we're guessing there is another angle to Robinhood removing this data. If you want it in the future, you're going to have to pay for it. Like its order flow, we're guessing everything's for sale at Robinhood, and wouldn't be surprised if the brokerage creates a hedge fund product with this data moving forward. Now, check out CNBC's report from Friday. Robinhood says it will stop showing how many customers hold a certain stock on its website, also restricting access to its API. The public data is how RobinTrack and other third parties show that what the Robinhood retail traders are buying and selling. And this is, again, being done on a daily basis. So those days, they're saying, will be gone, long gone. Again, data is king. People charge a lot of money for data. All right. And of course, the hedge funds, they like to front run the market. They like to use their robots, the high frequency trading algorithms, to fleece the little guy. That's just what they do. Okay. It's what they do. Can you say corruption? Well, if you don't think that's bad enough, how about this? How about paying people who test positive for COVID? Well, California may soon be paying people $1,250 who test positive for coronavirus. always looking for ways to one up its own failed welfare state and run the COVID score up on the president. California has now approved a pilot plan to pay $1,250 to anyone who tests positive for coronavirus to encourage them to stay at home and self-isolate. Now, Alameda County's Board of Supervisors has set aside $10 million for the program, which will allow payments to 7,500 people, according to the Daily Mail. The program was approved as the county hit a new high in daily coronavirus cases, and the California continues to struggle to contain the outbreak in its state. Now, the program is being welcomed by local healthcare providers who say it'll help those in working class areas stay at home and not spread the virus by leaving the house. Now, Andrea Schwab, CEO of the Tiburcio Vasquez Health Center in Hayward, commented, literally every single person that we have spoken to through our contract tracing program, they have all asked for either food, help with rent, or access to be enrolled in health care. Contract tracing program. Most people that test positive are usually the members that are out there working and able to do that. She continued, they are construction workers, they are grocery workers, so they are more exposed compared to some of the other family members they are trying to support, including their children. Resident Robert M. also embraced the program, stating, yeah, whatever makes it a lot easier for people to deal with this pandemic would be great. $1,200 or even more would be ideal for comforting a lot of families. So now they want to pay you to stay home. In order to qualify for the assistance, people who test positive must not be receiving unemployment or sick leave. Approval for the program will require a referral from one of the 5 approved clinics in the county. The board hopes the program will assist independent contractors, people who are paid under the table, and undocumented workers. Alameda County saw a large spike in cases on Wednesday, with 321 new cases reported. This was a new daily record for the county. The area has a 28% positivity testing rate. For some reason, we bet that number rises. So I need you to understand something. For those that are new or this is your first time stopping by, welcome aboard. But I want you to understand something, because this is very important. And this is that compartmentalization effect of how the government moves. Contract tracing program. I guarantee you the whole contract tracing thing with the COVID is not at all what it appears to be. They are collecting data. Remember what I told you, data is gold right now. Data is the new gold, okay? Data is the cryptocurrency that makes everything go around. Without data, your phone apps are trash. You got to have some data to plug into the programs. So it's all about data at the end of the day. But I guarantee you this data has nothing to do with COVID. At the end of the day, this is not the reason for it. You, unbeknownst to yourself, is almost 100% guarantee. You are helping them to build a database for another reason, perhaps even a nefarious one. You need to be cognizant of this. All right? This is the world we live in right now. Okay? They will not tell you the truth because they don't want you to know the truth. But you can bet your bottom dollar that you are helping them with your contract tracing. That's why they're paying you to do it, because you're doing a job. All right, so that contact tracing is not what it appears to be. All right, they're going to take that data and use that to filter and feed into another program that will be disclosed down the line, if at all. Just like when we graduated, when we came out of high school, data entry jobs were exploding everywhere. All right, And when you walked in the door, you're like, okay, what do I do? Well, it's data entry. We're going to give you a stack of forms, paperwork. Your job is to type it into this database, type it into this computer. Type exactly what you see on the page, regardless. Just type it in there. Even if it's a word misspelled wrong or whatever, just type it in there anyway. We were given guidelines. You are to type exactly what is on the page. Just type it into the database. All right? And it was under the auspices of another program. Guess what the auspices of the program was? See, before COVID-19, there was something else. There was the big, bad boogeyman. Now, you young folk are too young to know this because you probably weren't alive yet. But before COVID, there was another thing. Now, the country didn't lock down over it, but it was just a biggest deal as the COVID. As a matter of fact, I would go further and say it was a bigger deal than COVID, and it lasted for a long time. Do y'all want to know what the auspices was, the banner for this whole database thing? Collecting, are you ready? How many of you old heads out there remember asbestos? Do you remember asbestos? Oh, it's deadly. It will kill you. It will give you lung cancer. You will drop dead. We can't believe that every home in the United States that was built before such and such is nothing but a big blob of asbestos. You're living in a giant asbestos spore. And that became the movement. It was a big deal. It was in the news every day for years. And then there was a big campaign. The government put aside billions of dollars to come and remove the asbestos from every building, from every home. They could come. They could even do it for free. There was all these contractors working with the government to remove asbestos. They had a plan and a goal to remove it from the houses within a certain amount of time. Billions and billions of dollars. Supposedly thousands of people were dying. Hundreds of thousands of people were dying from cancer. Cancer rates were supposedly just catastrophic and exponential. Like overnight, you went from 100 people in the country dying from cancer to 1 billion people dying from cancer. And it was only 200 million people in America at the time. But yet we had 1 billion people in America dying from asbestos and getting sick from asbestos. Y'all remember that? Asbestos. That was the first job I got out of high school. Come to find out, you had all these government contractors that got that were bidding for different things. And the company I worked for had got the asbestos contract. And our job was to take all the data and plug it into this computer. Now, for you that don't know, back then the computers were nothing like they are now. All right, this is back during the infancy days of computing. You had Wang, you had WordStar, WordPerfect, and Lotus, and all this other stuff. And this when people were starting to learn things, and you had all these different things going on, all these different databases. You had to learn, you had to know. In order to get the job, you had to be able to type, and you had to be able to do this. Now, here's the funny thing: no one else mentioned the world and where it was going, except for I had one prophetic typing teacher, and she said, for those of you just taking this typing class because you need to fulfill or whatever requirement. She said, let me school you on something. The world is changing. You're gonna want to be able to type, so you'll be able to get a good job when you when you graduate. It's gonna be a lot of jobs. She said data entry and word processing is the new thing. All right, and that was considered technical jobs back then. That was analogous to working in Microsoft for in the early 80s. All right, it was about word processing and data entry. All right. And in order for you to get that job, you had to type. And then some of the employers, the headhunters, you had to come in, and you had to take a test, and then they would set you, with a job, and you could go get a word processing job or a data entry job. Data entry was the ground floor, and then you could work your way up to word processing job. And back then, those were the jobs that paid a lot of money, believe it or not. All right, those were the ones that paid good money coming out of high school. All right, now back then, you guys who don't know, you will not believe what the minimum wage was back then. It was $3.35 an hour. That was the minimum wage back then. And the job that I got coming out of high school was paying $7. So I was looking good. I was like, yeah, I'm feeling good about life right now, right? But that only lasted a minute. Now we thought that what we were doing was working for asbestos, right? The government asbestos program. Come to find out years later, that had nothing to do with it. They were using all of us data entry people to build the internet. At the end of the day, people, it's all about data. So my question is, what is the contact tracing really going to be used for going forward in the future? See what I'm saying? It's that blindfold that you have on, because the government likes to compartmentalize everybody. Everyone's doing a task, but they don't really realize why they're doing it, and or they don't understand what part of the whole they play. You have all these different things happening, and you don't even know the who, the why, and the what. You just know, all right, we got this contract to make this spinning top. What's the spinning top going to be used for? We don't know, but here's the specifications. This is what the government said they want, and you got to make this spinning top. And then someone else gets a contract from them for the same project and says, we need you to make a battery. Okay, fine, we're going to make a battery. Here's the specifications, what we want. Then another person says, okay, for you working on the XYZ program, we need you to make a pair of sneakers. What? Why don't you just get Nike to do that? Nope, we're going to give it to you. Now, what you don't know is for each one of these pieces, right, it requires a security clearance because it's a classified project. All right. So you can't even step into the building unless you have a security clearance. You can't even take the trash out and be a trash person unless you got a security clearance to take out the trash. I'm dead serious. And each department is separated by, controlled access. And if you don't work in that department, your key card thing will not work to get you through those doors. You can only go to your department in and out the building. That's it. You have no access. It could be a 10-story building, and every floor is a different part of that program, and each one is closed off to the other. If you work on the 5th floor, you only have access to the 5th floor. You can't go to no other floor except for the 5th floor. Your key will not let you go there. It's hilarious the way they do things, and you don't know. No, you're none the wiser. What you didn't realize, what you were building, someone had a spinning top, another person had a sneaker, another person had a battery. But like, what in the world are you building with those components? Well, guess what? You didn't know that you were building, let's say, the new iPhone that was going to come out years later. See what I'm saying? They keep you in the dark for everything. So this contact tracing thing is really concerning to me because we've seen this movie before, and we know that some of the plans that have been exposed are extremely nefarious, and we need to do something before it's too late. You don't have a choice. You got to. You see what I'm saying? You got to. Now, already with the riots and all that we see going on, it's really having consequences. Okay, it's really having consequences. What you see and what you hear are starting to create situations and individuals that they're facing chronic stress. All right, and they know that. The suicide rate is going up. Why? Because we have a bogus economic recovery. and people are just burnt out and stressed out. And that's just a fact. And they know this. They know that the human being can only take for so much before they break. And that's where we are right now. We are there. We are there. Something's definitely wrong. Something don't feel right, and you know it. You know it. There seems to be a disconnect between the real world and the fake world. Okay. Now, back in the days of ancient Rome, it was not unusual for corrupt emperors to demand substantial cuts on every business transaction to fund their orgies and their other transgressions. Now, throughout recorded history, corrupt governments and bureaucrats and tax gatherers and governors and other parasites have extracted facilitation fees as their share for allowing commerce to proceed. All right, everybody wants a cut. All right, but I've never seen it done quite so blatantly as Donald Trump when he offered to allow the sale of TikTok to Microsoft on the basis of a very substantial portion of that price to be paid to come to the Department of Treasury of the United States because they're making it possible for the deal to happen. Again, being shaken down, being forced to pay protection money is what it boils down to. All you can say is wow, wow. That resets the rules of global business. It redefines the role of government. But in my opinion, it goes deeper than that. It exposes government because we've been living under this for a long time. Everyone has a silent partner. Whether you work a 9-to-5 job or you're self-employed, you have a silent partner. His name is Uncle Sam. He gets a cut of all of your commerce activity. Every time you fill up your tank with gas, Uncle Sam gets a cut. If you're hungry and you want to go to lunch and you go to McDonald's and buy a Big Mac, Uncle Sam is standing there saying, yo, can I have a bite? Every time you say, man, the new Jordans are coming out, let me go get them new Jordans, Uncle Sam is standing right there at the cash register. What you saying? Yo, can I wear one of those shoes? Let me wear the left one, you wear the right one. Come on, Sam. Every time you say, you know, it's time to buy a new car and you get them new wheels, right? When you're signing all the paperwork, it doesn't matter if you're using a loan from your bank or you're paying in cash. Doesn't matter. Uncle Sam is sitting right there next to you saying, can I drive? Yo, Sam, why you keep following me, man? Everywhere I go, man, you up on you on my neck, man. I thought I left you home. Nah, man, it's nice out. I figured I would come out with you so you don't have to shop by yourself. Every time you go to the grocery store, because you need to re-up on groceries, and you have plans to make yourself a really fancy meal, going to treat yourself to some steak and whatever. When you get to the checkout line, standing right next to the cashier is Uncle Sam. Yo, Sam, what you doing behind the register? Yo, I figured since you was buying groceries, tell you what, why don't you give me the lettuce, the tomato, and let me get them shrimps right there. Yo, Sam, that's for me. How I'm gonna make my meal if I give you all my ingredients. Well, come on, man, I gotta eat too, right? Hey, didn't I make it possible for you to come to this grocery store? What do you mean? You didn't do nothing for me. See, what you don't know, player, them traffic lights, I put those there. I put them traffic lights there for you, man. I did that for you. So that you can make it to the store in one piece without somebody crashing into you. Yo, man, you ain't had nothing to do with that, Sam. Cut this out, man. You don't understand, do you? You see that road out there that you drove your car on? If it wasn't for me, you would have to drive that car through weeds and through swamp and through forestry. I built those roads. Come on, Sam, man, for real, man. I did that, yo. If it wasn't for me, all the military I got on the border, China would have been came up in here and they would have kicked the door in your house and they would have took over your house and enslaved you, man. I I did that. I kept that from happening to you, man. I take care of you, man. Sam, you ain't do nothing for me. I went to work with my own hands and bought this and paid for this stuff. You ain't work with me. You wasn't there slaving with me from 9 to 5. What you talking about? He like, nah, you got it all wrong. See, I created that job for you, player. The person that owned your boss came to me and was like, yo, Sam, can I get permission to build a company so I can hire some employees and make some money? And I told him, yeah, it was all right. Go ahead, man. Go on. Go ahead. I created that job for you. The least you could do is break me off a little something every time you get paid. Yo, why can't I give you some of my money when I worked hard? Didn't I just finish explaining that to you? Give me what you owe me. I don't owe you nothing, Sam. Yes, you do. So every time we buy something, Uncle Sam is standing right there saying, yo, can I borrow $1? Every time we take a bite of a sandwich, Uncle Sam is standing there saying, yo, can you break me off a little bit of tax on that sandwich? No matter what we do, no matter where we go, Uncle Sam is standing right there with his hand out. The average American pays about 60 to 70 different types of taxes on a daily basis. Did you know that? There is a tax on everything. 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 And then he's even worse than that. Say you want to travel overseas, spend a little time overseas out the country. Uncle Sam is standing right there saying, well, hold up, wait. Come in, nephew, before you get on that plane. Come in, let me holler at you real quick. I understand you trying to wire money out of the country to a foreign bank. Tell you what, I'm only gonna let you take 5,000. What? I'm trying to buy a house in France, man. Why are you doing this to me? Because I really don't want to see my money leave the country. What you mean your money? It's my money. No, it's really my money, son. Whose face is on that money? Is your face on that money? Well, no, but your face isn't it on either. Actually, it is. See, that's my seal right there. That's my money. Your money in your checking account and your savings account is my money, and I don't know if I feel some type of way about you wiring, a certain amount of money to a foreign country, because then that's money leaving my country going to another country. What are you talking about? It's my money. I want to buy some property out of the country. Yeah, but tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna put a hold on this, and we're gonna need you to sign these documents. We're gonna need you to do this and that. We're gonna need to hear from the bank you're going to. And you know what? Actually, no, we can't allow the transfer to happen. I'm so sorry. Not at this time. You're traveling to a country that we have a problem with right now. We got a trade war going on, and we can't. We just can't allow it. I don't understand. What are you talking? It's my money. Okay, tell you what. I'm gonna withdraw all my cash. Oh, well, now hold on now, nephew. I think you're getting beside yourself now. Now, we don't hold it. We don't keep that kind of money in the bank. You got to sign a different stack of forms. And then we're going to ask you, why do you need all this money in cash? Are you a terrorist? Are you funding terrorist activity? I just explained to you I'm buying a house. Well, okay, this is what we're going to need from you. We're going to need the name and addresses of all of your elementary school teachers. We're going to need the names and addresses and phone numbers of all your middle school teachers, your high school teachers, your university professors. I need the name, address, and phone number of the little redhead girl that you used to sit next to in science class in the 6th grade. I'm going to need that too. What does that have to do with it? It's just what I require, son. If you say you want this money, right? Well, these are things I need from you. You see all the hoops and hurdles you got to jump through in the US of A just to conduct any type of business or money transaction. Uncle Sam got that all locked down. It's all locked down. You got a solid partner. You just didn't realize it. Every dollar you make, Uncle Sam says, yo, break me off some of that, shorty. You got to break them off something. Every penny you get. And now they're taking it to another level. They must have been watching the episode The Grimm on Amazon Prime. They're starting to vogue right in front of you. They're going to vogue right in front of you. They don't care that you now realize that Uncle Sam all this time was really not a human. He's a hexen beast. Now you realize it, but it's too late. So not only have they redefined the role of government, but it solves the tax conundrum of how states are going to finance the pandemic cost. A buccaneering, we will go. Who loses? The Chinese seller or the U.S. buyer? Or everyone? Meanwhile, back in the real world, we're becoming increasingly worried about the R word. What's the R word? Recovery. The economic damage is not only escalating, but it's not doing what they claimed it was doing, which was easing. What do record low negative real yields and the rise of gold tell you? Something is awry. It's been relatively optimistic that recovery from the pandemic could be faster than expected. After all, it's not like a war destroyed factories and infrastructure, shattered consumer demand, and broken supply chains are quickly fixed. Governments and central banks acted swiftly and decisively. Recent economic reports and signals of resumed activity have been increasingly positive, right? It's positive. So why does it feel like the recovery is stalling? For a lot of people, things are getting worse. For the man on the street, the obvious threat is that the coronavirus policy decisions will tip us back into a meltdown. There is a sense that the recessionary forces that kicked into motion by the virus are taking on their own momentum. Look at the rising number of job losses, not just in different sectors being hammered by the virus, like airlines and hospitality and tourism, which we're going to get a whiff of that with the earnings coming out from the cruise line. But also, what rising bank NPLs will mean for growth. To use a sailing metaphor, it feels like a gathering wave. Every negative economic pulse is each individually a small ripple on the surface of the economic ocean, but they are combining into storm waves that threaten to swamp economic activity. The bad ones come in three parts. The first issue is an increasing element of wobble in the background noise. The pandemic is setting the economic agenda and driving what feel to be increasingly reactive government responses. We need to be ahead of this thing, not behind it. If it looks reactive, it hammers sentiment. Confidence is what will get us out of crisis. Confidence feels in increasingly short supply. It's not the virus that created the storm. It's the policy decision taken to address the storm that's doing the most damage. Regrettable, but it's a fact. The coronavirus didn't do this. It was the response to the coronavirus that did this. Second, add the coronavirus shocks to damaged global supply and demand chains and the friction from known geopolitical threats like China and US tensions, global trade, Brexit, and the issues likely to be triggered by Europe's recovery fund. Then layer on top of that the economic tensions multiplying in the emerging markets. Oh, and yeah, the possibility of a messy U.S. election triggering a constitutional crisis. They're already saying that the mail-in ballots is a scam to steal the election. They're saying that the Democrats are pushing for this because they want to steal the election. The third issue is the reality of solvency. The number of SMEs being kept afloat solely through government schemes and emergency lending, plus the larger corporates that have borrowed in markets. That money keeps companies open, but it may also be at an ultra cheap rate. But when it comes due and companies struggle to repay even the ultra cheap rates, they're going to face a wave of defaults and NPLs. The result is going to be more for longer government support alongside permanent lower for longer rates and the distortions of QE affinity. Now, the longer it lasts, the more established permanent intervention becomes, and the more unlikely it will ever end. In effect, a whole private sector utterly depends on state aid. The alternative is a tidal wave of defaults and rising unemployment. Now, the rating agencies are seeing defaults set to rise substantially, exponentially, but it's been delayed by the pandemic, but certain to lift as support policies ebb and businesses realize it's impossible to carry on. They can go no further. It's like playing a very difficult game from software. The only way you can progress is with a cheat code. If you're playing on PlayStation, maybe an action, maybe a save wizard will help you. Or like my son. Now, my son says, I didn't know this, but my son tells me that Sekiro died twice, that no one has beaten the final boss in that game yet. So we're already seeing the road of impossibility. Straight up. Now, governments can't afford to write a permanent blank check to the economy while providing all the public good services we expect from them. Defense, education, health, social care, etc. Something will break. And hoping that modern monetary theory can bail us out indefinitely, well, that's a hope and a stretch, which is never a good strategy. All right? Now, I got to tell you, man, this is a war that we won't be winning if the whole economy remains dependent on state support. And we still suffer massive and rising long-term structural unemployment and crashing disposable incomes. I mentioned the crashing disposable incomes last week. We got the next-gen consoles coming out. We got the new Xbox and the new PlayStation 5 coming out. Is it going to be delayed because no one can afford $500-$600 for a system and $100 for a game? That's right. They're raising prices to $100 per video game on the next-gen consoles. So on top of paying, $500-$600 for the new console, now you're going to pay $100 for the games. Really? Really? The danger is null entropy economies. May work in consensus economies like Japan, but won't work in the socially volatile Occidental economies where strife and unrest is much more likely. Tensions will be massively inflated by rising inequality and the perception of bailed out markets benefiting only the elites. Now, there is, of course, a more optimistic perspective. That's the pandemic will act as a catalyst from the old, tired, debt-dependent pre-COVID economy to something new and much more exciting. All right, now, people have been talking about it and kicking that around for a little bit, talking about clean energy and things of that nature. But we're also on the cusp of a healthcare paradigm shift as new ways to monitor our health will decisively shift the medical profession towards early interventions, much more prevention over treatment, and an industry of possibilities of 3D printing, automation, robotics, and AI could transform the growth outlook. Now, these are possibilities. All right, so this is the hope that people are looking forward to. But again, here's the messed up part. All of that costs money. Where's the money for investment coming? Let's talk like adults just for a second. Because I understand all that. I really do. I understand all of that. But we got to be realistic. We got to be realistic about what's really going on and find a way to put an end to it. All right? We are living in a predator state. We've seen the building blocks of tyranny being stacked like blocks from A to Z on us. Yeah, we have. Just ask John Whitehead from the Rutherford Institute. When a population becomes distracted by trivia, when cultural life is redefined as a perpetual round of entertainments, when serious public conversation becomes a form of baby talk, when in short a people become an audience and their public business a vaudeville act, then a nation finds itself at risk. A culture death is clear possibility. And as a quote from Professor Neil Postman, from Amusing Ourselves to Death, Discourse in an Age of Show Business. That's a very powerful quote. Now, while mainstream America continues to fixate on the drama-filled reality show scripted by the powers that be, and yes, corporate media, mainstream media, is run by a government script, a physical, literal government script and talking points, when that's directed from the nation's capital and played out in high definition across the country, the American police state has moved steadily forward in the process. That's what we're seeing right now. Nothing has changed. The COVID-19 scam pandemic has been a convenient, traumatic, devastating distraction. The American people, the permanent underclass in America, have allowed themselves to be so distracted and divided that they have failed to notice the building blocks of tyranny being laid down right under their noses by the architects of the deep state. You got Trump, you got Obama, you got Bush, you got Clinton. They have all been complicit in carrying out the deep state's agenda. Unless something changes to restore that balance of power, the next president, the new boss, will be the same as the old boss. Frankly, it really doesn't matter what you call the old or new boss. The deep state, the controllers, the masterminds, the shadow government, the corporate elite, the police state, the surveillance state, the military industrial complex. So as long as you understand that no matter who occupies the White House, it is a profit-driven and unelected bureaucracy that is actually calling the shots. The president is just a figurehead, a spokesperson, if you will, a pretty face to put before the camera. If our losses are mounting with every passing day, and they are, it is a calculated siege intended to ensure our defeat at the hands of a totalitarian regime. Free speech, the right to protest, the right to challenge government wrongdoing, due process, a presumption of innocence, the right to self-defense, accountability and transparency in government, privacy, media, sovereignty, assembly, bodily integrity, representative government. All of these and more are casualties in the government's war on its own American people. Set against a backdrop of government surveillance, militarized federal police, SWAT team raids, asset forfeiture, over-criminalization, armed surveillance drones, whole body scanners, stop and frisk searches, and the like, all of which have been sanctioned by Congress, sanctioned by the White House, sanctioned by the courts. Our constitutional freedoms are being steadily chipped away at, undermined, eroded, whittled down, and generally discarded. The over-criminalization aspect is probably the deepest, darkest secret and the most deadly weapon that they have used in this war against their own people. When you make jaywalking a felony, you know that something is definitely underfoot. How in the world have they been allowed to do this? Over criminalizing everything. Everything. That way you can fill the prisons because the state's back is against the wall because of the ridiculous contracts that they actually went into agreement with that says they will keep those private prisons and jails occupied at maximum occupancy or suffer the penalty of having to pay for every empty cell, for every empty bed. That's right. This is ridiculous. And you want to hear some lottie-dottie positive outlook? You want hope? When you've allowed this to get this, when you allow the cancer to spread and metastasize, you allow the patient to get to stage 4 end stage cancer, and now you want to talk hope and you want to talk treatment when you're this far gone, when the doctor says you probably won't make it through the night. Now you want to talk about hope and alternative treatments. Now you want to talk about this stuff when before you just waved him past and said, I don't want to hear your conspiracy theories. I don't want to hear any of your thoughts on the subject. The science is settled. There is no more debate. While the cancer is spreading rapidly through the patient's body. You said the science was over. There is no debate. You said there's no use talking about it. And now, when it's too late, you realize there is a plethora of alternative treatments, many of which have a greater than 90% efficacy rate, where you could have been healed completely. But now it's too late. It's too late. And you want to say, well, what can we do? There's nothing you can do. It's too late. It's too late. And as a result, the American people have been treated like enemy combatants, to be spied on, to be tracked, to be scanned, to be frisked, to be searched, to be subjected to all manner of intrusions, to be intimidated, to be invaded, to be raided, to be manhandled, to be censored, to be silenced, to be shot at, to be locked up, and denied due process. None of these dangers have dissipated in any way, shape, or form. They have merely disappeared from our televised news streams. It's time to get educated on what's really going on. What's really good. Thus, in the interest of liberty and truth, here's a primer that spells out the grim realities of life in the American police state that no one seems to be talking about anymore. I had some friends that came here from Germany many years ago to do some classified work at NIH. And when they were finished, they had the ability to stay in the country and opted not to. They opted to go back to Germany. And do you want to know why? Now, mind you, back then I was not fully awoken to the realities that we have come to know today. I was still asleep. And I did not understand what they said when they said what they said. And this is what they said. They said that's the reason why we are leaving, is because it has come to our attention that George Bush is about to become elected in your country. And once that happens, your country is going to turn into a police state. I said, what are you talking about? What is that? And they said, we don't have time. We got to go. Before I knew it, they were on a flight back to Germany and they have never come back. Yeah. I should have known something was awry, but I didn't even know. I hadn't even heard the term police state at that time. Didn't know what they were talking about. Nothing. Yeah, they were right. As a matter of fact, there's been a trend among individuals traveling to America from foreign lands, coming here, going to school or whatever, and then going back to their homeland. When I asked them, well, are you going to stay here? You like it here better? They say, absolutely not. This is not what we thought. I'm going to take my knowledge and things that I've learned, and I'm going back to my country. I can do a lot better good in my country. I can do better financially in my country. They come here and they're struggling. Some of them were high up in their country that they came from. And then when they come here, they're living like paupers. And they say, oh, no, I'll take the information, but then I'm going back to my country. They couldn't wait to get out of here. And I'm talking. I've interviewed people from Africa. I've talked to people from Germany, from Russia, from China. There are people who wanted to go. They went back to China. They said it's better in China than here. I'm not kidding. People who came here from India went back to India. Middle East went back to the Middle East. They say you don't get it. I'm living like a king over the Middle East. Over here, I can barely even pay my rent. I'm out of here. So a lot of people are coming here, taking the information, whatever they need to get, and then they're going back to their country of origin proudly. That should tell you a lot. There was a time when people were breaking their necks and risking life and limb to come to the United States. So much so that there were memes for it and sayings. Remember the derogatory statements? It meant something because people were getting in rafts, risking drowning to get to the United States because things were so bad at home. And that they knew if they could just get to the United States, then they could make a better life for themselves. That day has long since passed, ladies and gentlemen. They're begging to be sent back. Are you kidding me? They're doing what they got to do to get back. And even those that remained here for a period of time, do you know what they were doing? They were living poor on purpose so they could send money back home, so that they could bring their families out of poverty back home and into not middle class, but upper middle class in their countries. And then guess what they do? They go back to their countries of origin. No one wants to stay here anymore. This has been a trend that I have noticed since our friends went back to Germany, saying, when your President Bush gets in office, it's going to be a police state. Oh, and by the way, they said this before 9/11. This is before 9/11. Yeah, that's right. So let's look at how far down the rabbit hole we have become. And this is why you need to really prepare yourself and understand what's really going on, because you're going to have to protect yourself. So here it is from A to Z. A is for the American police state. A police state is characterized by bureaucracy, secrecy, perpetual wars, a nation of suspects, militarization, surveillance, widespread police presence, and a citizenry with little recourse against police actions. I'm giving you real definitions here, ladies and gentlemen. B is for our battered Bill of Rights, In a militarized police culture, that is America today, where you can be kicked, punched, tasered, shot, intimidated, harassed, strip searched, brutalized, terrorized, wrongfully arrested, or even killed by a police officer, and that officer is rarely held accountable for violating your rights. The Bill of Rights doesn't amount to much anymore. Now, with that said, I will tell you there are great police officers out there. I have known some, even had friends and family that were police officers, salt of the earth people, godly men and women who will give you the shirt off of their back. All right. One of these days, I'll give you some testimonies. But I can tell you, I have known some downright angelic police officers. Like I said, will give you the shirt off their back, literally. Okay? Will go into an ATM and take out huge amounts of cash to give to the person on the street, whether they were homeless, hungry, whatever. Do not tell me that all police are, dark lords and servants of the dark lord. Many are, unfortunately, but there are some good ones out there. C is for civil asset forfeiture. Did you know that this governmental scheme to deprive Americans of their liberties, namely the right to property, is being carried out under the guise of civil asset forfeiture? For those of you that don't know what that is, that's a government practice wherein government agents, usually the police and now even TSA agents, can seize private property that they suspect may be connected to criminal activity. Then, whether or not any crime is actually proven to have taken place, the government keeps the citizens' property and it's virtually impossible to get it back. Did you hear what I just said to you? Under the asset forfeiture laws, they can take something if they suspect it's connected to criminal activity, and even after it's proven that it was not, it is impossible to get your money and belongings, personal property back. Who are you going to sue? The government? D is for drones. It was estimated that at least 30,000 drones would be airborne in American airspace by 2020. Hello, we're now in 2020. It was part of an $80 billion industry. Although some drones will be used for benevolent purposes, many will also be equipped with lasers, tasers, and scanning devices, among other weapons, all aimed at we, the people. Notice how it has nothing to do with protecting our borders. It has to do with protecting those in power that want to stay in power from us. E is for emergency state. From 9/11 to COVID-19, we have been the subject to an emergency state that justifies all manner of government tyranny and power grabs in the so-called name of national security. The government's ongoing attempts to declare so-called national emergencies in order to circumvent the Constitution's system of checks and balances constitutes yet another expansion of presidential power that exposes the nation to further constitutional peril. F is for fascism. Yeah. A study conducted by Princeton and Northwestern University concluded that the U.S. government does not represent the majority of American citizens. Instead, the study found that the government is ruled by the rich and powerful, or the so-called economic elite. Moreover, the researchers concluded that policies enacted by the governmental elite nearly always favor special interests and lobbying groups. In other words, we're being ruled by an oligarchy disguised as a democracy and arguably on our way towards fascism. What is fascism? Fascism is a form of government where private corporate interests rule, money calls the shots, and the people are seen as mere economic units or data bits. You get your definitions here today, ladies and gentlemen. G is for grenade launchers and global police. The federal government has distributed more than $18 billion worth of battlefield appropriate military weapons, vehicles, and equipment such as drones, tanks, and grenade launchers to domestic police departments across the country. As a result, most small town police forces now have enough firepower to render any citizen resistance futile. Now, take those small town police forces, train them to look and act like the military, and then enlist them to be part of the United Nations Strong Cities Network program. And you not only have a standing army that operates beyond the reach of the Constitution, but one that is part of a global police force. How many years have I warned you about the global police force? I told you that it's going to come down to a point where you're going to see UN peace officers on the street, blue helmet and all. When I first said that back in 2013, people laughed. When I went on other YouTube channels to be interviewed, such as SGT Report and the like, they said, "Who is this clown? Don't ever have him back on your show again. Don't do it. He's a nut." But now here we are. Now what? Now what? H is for hollow point bullets. The government's efforts to militarize and weaponize its agencies and employees of said agencies is reaching epic proportions, with federal agents as varied as the Department of Homeland Security and the Social Security Administration stockpiling millions, and I do mean millions, of lethal hollow point bullets, which violate international law, ironically, while the government continues to push for stricter gun laws for the general populace. The U.S. military arsenal of weapons makes an average American's handgun look like a tinker toy. Really, they're concerned about what you and I have. They want to outlaw guns for their citizens, but not for the government. I is for the Internet of Things, in which internet connected things monitor your home, they monitor your health, and yes, they monitor your habits in order to keep your pantry stocked, your utilities regulated, and your life under control and relatively worry free. The key word here, however, is the word control. This connected industry, think of the Borg, propels us closer to a future where police agencies apprehend virtually anyone if the government thinks they may commit a crime, like Minority Report. Driverless cars populate the highways, and a person's biometrics are constantly scanned and used to track their movements, target them for advertising, and keep them under perpetual surveillance. Let that marinate for a minute. You are under perpetual surveillance. Think about how we've been trained for this perpetual surveillance, though. Let that marinate also for a minute. You'd be like, how have they been training us? Okay, well, they came out with a thing called Fitbit. What does Fitbit do? It monitors your body, your bodily functions, your heart rate, your resting heart rate. All of your bodily algorithms are being monitored with the Fitbit, and everybody finds it so helpful and so spiritual. You're monitoring you, everything about you. All right? That information is being looped back to a database somewhere. Fitbit is a wonderful tool because, of course, those that work out and run and all that stuff, for them, oh, this is great. I'm in shape. I look great. My watch is working. So we got things monitoring our health. We got devices that monitor how much resources we use with quote unquote smart meters. Your phone is snitching on you. Even if you got the thing turned off, it can be turned on remotely. It can record and hear everything you say. So we're already used to 24-hour surveillance in our homes, ladies and gentlemen. All right? That's right. Your cable box can hear you. It's spying on you and sending the data to a database. Your cell phone is listening to you and sending your information to a database. Your smartwatch is monitoring your stochastic pressures and your cholesterol and your body fat index and everything else and sending it to a database. Your car is tracking you and reporting back to a database. Anything that is connected to the web is snitching on you, surveilling you, and reporting back the findings to a database. Okay? GPS monitors you, surveils you, and reports back your location to a database. And we're fine with being tracked via GPS. We've been trained for years with GPS. You think that GPS was just created so you could get from point A to point B. No, it was created so that you could be tracked from point A to point B. So GPS tracks your movements. Then you got Fitbit tracking your bodily functions. And then you got smart devices and smartphones monitoring your conversations. All this is happening under your nose without you being the wiser. You didn't even realize that you were being trained for all the different aspects of drones. Then they condition you further by making toy drones available. Everybody went out, rushed out to buy a drone that they could fly through the air and all that good stuff, and it's fun. And you didn't realize that it was never for you to have fun flying anything in the air. It was designed and meant for you to get used to and deconditioned to seeing these things flying in the air. But here's the thing that really proves how they do the okie dokie on you. They had you conditioned for and approved for seeing the drones in the air without being shot. But the little drone they give you to play with is not the drones that they're using. They're outfitting, single engine propeller type plane size drones in the air. Some are even bigger than that. Basically, you got commercial aircraft size drones flying around in the air. I've seen several of them out here in the DMV. Large. You got drones bigger than your car flying around in the air, and you're used to it. You're not surprised anymore. Oh, it's just a drone. You've been deconditioned to being alarmed when you see a large drone flying around. J is for jailing for profit. That's right. You see, the federal government has outsourced, delegated their authority, their inmate population to private prisons run by private corporations. Now, this profit driven form of mass punishment has given rise to a $70 billion prison industrial complex that relies on the complicity of state governments to keep their privately run prisons full by jailing large numbers of Americans for petty crimes. That's the criminalization of all things. So things that used to be misdemeanors, you turn those into felonies, and then you add a whole list of new misdemeanors like not wearing a mask in public. They have criminalized not wearing a mask in public. It's a misdemeanor with up to 12 months in jail and massive fines. You can spend up to a year in jail. You know the courts are itching for the first case they get so they can send a message. The first person to be arrested for not wearing a mask in public will be looking at 12 months in jail just so they can send a message. That's right. K. K is for Kentucky versus King. In an 8-1 ruling, the Supreme Court ruled that police officers can break into homes without a warrant, even if it's the wrong home, as long as they think they may have a reason to do so. Despite the fact that the police in question ended up pursuing the wrong suspect, invaded the wrong apartment, and violated just about every tenet that stands between the citizenry and a police state, the court sanctioned the warrantless raid, leaving Americans with little real protection in the face of all manner of abuses by law enforcement officials. That's right. Deal with it. These are facts, ladies and gentlemen. They can run up in your crib just like that. You have no rights. You have no say. It's a sad day in America. And they're doing this on the regular, breaking into your home. Oh, did you know that doctors also, now this is something that's been kept out of the mainstream media as well. All right. I only got this information because, again, I talk to people, I interview people. All right. I had a doctor that confirmed this for me. Did you know they have made amendments and changes to like the Hippocratic Oath for doctors? All right. You're going to hear this exclusive here on this channel and on this channel only. I've never heard this anywhere else. So I'm going to talk about it. Are you ready? Did you know it is now lawful and legal and okay for your doctor to lie to you regarding your medical condition and or treatment for that condition if they believe it is in your best interest? Yeah, you heard me right. It's okay now. Your doctor can lie to you if they think that it is going to do you medical good. For instance, as you know, as a patient, you have a right to refuse treatment, blah, 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 right? Well, now to combat that, doctors have a right to lie to you concerning your diagnosis or concerning issues you may have if they believe it's going to serve in your best interest. So let's say I believe that I don't want to take XYZ pill for whatever condition. All right. And the doctor really wants me to have it, and in their heart of hearts, they really believe I need to be on this medication. They can lie to me about it. So let's say I had an objection, like, no, I don't want to take it because I heard this and so. They can say, well, I've been on this medication for the last 20 or 30 years and I'm fine. Even though the doctor is not on that medication, he can lie and say he is, and look at me, I look great. I'm fine. And then document in the notes that they feel that it was in your best interest because they care about you, that they lied to you about the medication, or they lied to you concerning the situation, your actual condition. That's right. That's right. So the do no harm has been amended. If they think that it's really in your best interest and that you will be doing yourself harm if you don't seek a certain treatment, they can coerce you into taking that treatment. And they have various ways of doing it. L is for license plate readers. Now, some of you already have been victims of this, especially you guys down in Florida. License plate readers enable law enforcement and private agencies. See how they snuck that in there? Not just law enforcement, but private agencies to track the whereabouts of vehicles and their occupants all across the country. This data collected on tens of thousands of innocent people is also being shared between police agencies as well as with government fusion centers and private companies. This puts Big Brother in the driver's seat, literally. M is for main core. Since the 1980s, the U.S. government has acquired and maintained, without warrant or court order, a database of names and information on Americans considered to be threats to the nation. As Salon reports, this database, reportedly dubbed the Main Core, is to be used by the Army and FEMA in times of national emergency or under martial law to locate and round up Americans seen as threats to national security. There are at least 8 million Americans in the Main Core database. Did I not tell you that that was our job coming out of high school? We had no idea what we were doing in putting data that looked innocent into a database. Yeah, they used us, our generation, to build these databases that we had no idea what we were doing. It wasn't until now, all these years later, that we realized, wow. N is for no-knock raids. Owing to the militarization of the nation's police forces, SWAT teams are now increasingly being deployed for routine police matters. In fact, more than 80,000 of these paramilitary raids are carried out every year. That translates to more than 200 SWAT team raids every day, in which police crash through doors, damage private property, terrorize adults and children alike, kill family pets, assault or shoot anyone that is perceived as threatening, and all in pursuit of someone's merely suspected of a crime, usually possession of some small amount of vegetables. That's right, vegetables, greenery, roots, weeds, grass, flowers. That's right. People are dying over flowers and people are dying over weeds growing out of the ground. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Cocaine comes from a plant, the coca plant. It's a plant, it's a flower. It grows out of the ground, just like opium, just like marijuana. It's vegetation. People are being killed over vegetation. Meanwhile, they don't ever do this over someone drinking a bottle of rum or vodka. But if you grow a particular flower, oh, all hell is going to break loose on you over flowers. We go to war over flowers in this country, ladies and gentlemen. That is why we're in Afghanistan. Opium is a flower, grows in the ground. It's vegetation. People being shot and killed and bombed over vegetables. O is for over criminalization and over regulation. And that over regulation goes back to the 1970s, by the way. Thanks to an overabundance of 4,500 plus federal crimes and 400,000 plus rules and regulations. Let's say that again. Did you know that there are over 4,500 federal crimes? The average person commits about 7 felonies a day, by the way, without even knowing it. Yeah. And there are over 400,000 rules and regulations. Did you know that? How in the world are you supposed to know all that as an individual? It's estimated that the average American actually commits 3 felonies a day, but I've seen it as high as 7, that they say, a day, without even knowing it. So at minimum, you're committing 3 felonies a day without knowing it. Maximum 7. As a result of this over criminalization, we're seeing an uptick in Americans being arrested and jailed for such absurd violations as letting their kids play at a park unsupervised, collecting rainwater and snow runoff on their property, growing vegetables in their yard, and yes, holding Bible studies in their living room, ladies and gentlemen. Google that, and you will be surprised. People have been jailed for letting their children play at the park unsupervised. That's all we did growing up, is play outside. Our parents wasn't outside with us. Are you kidding? Shoot, some of us even crossed county lines. What you talking about? And it was hordes of us kids. Are you kidding? It was hordes of us. We have to worry about nothing. Kids can't play outside now, but back then we could. Kids could not play outside now. You can be jailed for letting your kids play at the park unsupervised. You can be jailed for collecting rainwater and snow runoff on your own property. So now they're telling you what you can do on your own property, on your own land. Rain that's free, that falls out of the sky. If you collect it, you could go to jail. You could go to jail for growing vegetables in your yard. And yes, you can be jailed for holding a Bible study in your living room. Bet you didn't know that. This is real, folks. This is not a joke. P is for pathocracy and pre-crime. When our own government treats us as things to be manipulated, when our own government treats us as things to be maneuvered, when our government treats us as things to be mined for data, when our government mishandles us by police and other government agencies, mistreated and then jailed in profit-driven private prisons, if we dare step out of line, we are no longer operating under a constitutional republic. Instead, what we are experiencing is a pathocracy, which is tyranny at the hands of a psychopathic government, which operates against the interests of its own people, except for favoring certain groups. Couple that with the government's burgeoning pre-crime programs, which will use fusion centers, data collection agencies, behavioral scientists, corporations, social media, and community organizers, and by relying on cutting-edge technology for surveillance, for facial recognition, for predictive policing, for biometrics, and behavioral epigenetics in order to identify and deter so-called potential extremists, dissidents, or rabble rousers. Bear in mind that anyone seen as opposing the government, whether they're left, right, or somewhere in between, is now viewed as an extremist. So you've gone from conspiracy theorists to extremists in the click of a mouse. Q is for qualified immunity. Qualified immunity allows police officers to walk away without paying a dime for their wrongdoing. Conventionally, those deciding whether a cop should be immune from having to personally pay for misbehavior on the job all belong to the same system. All cronies with a vested interest in protecting the policies, the police, and their infamous code of silence. City and county attorneys, police commissioners, and city councils and judges. That is who the system is protecting. It's already a slap in the face to jail someone for a crime they didn't commit. But then what's worse, you jail someone for doing a normal behavior that is not criminal, but you criminalize the behavior. And then as a slap in the face, you're going to charge the person for every day that they sit in the jail. So they are incentivized to keeping you in jail longer, because then the jail makes more money. Because do you know that some people leave the jail owing thousands of dollars? They bill you for everything in those private jails. And do you know the other travesty and miscarriage of justice? Some people will sit in the jail for years before they even get their trial and their sentencing. And whatever the sentencing is, all the years you sit in the jail waiting does not count toward the time served. And some people even get a double jeopardy where you sit in jail for years before the trial. And then even after the trial, even after you've been found guilty, you still got to sit in the jail even longer while they try to find space for you in one of the local prisons. So before they send you down the road, you could be sitting in the jail for another year or two. It has not been uncommon for some people to sit in jail for 5 years, ladies and gentlemen. 5 years sitting in the jail. 5 years before they even get sent down the road. Where's the justice? Where's the justice? What happened to right to a speedy trial? And you know who they do this to, you guys? You're not gonna believe it. They do this to. I've seen this injustice mostly done against the Hispanic community. Yep. And guess what most of their situations are? Drunk driving. That's right. R is for roadside strip searches and blood draws. The courts have increasingly erred on the side of giving government officials, especially the police, vast discretion in carrying out strip searches, blood draws, and even anal and vaginal probes for a broad range of violations, no matter how minor the offense. In the past, strip searches were reported to only in exceptional circumstances where police were confident that a serious crime was in progress. In recent years, however, strip searches have become routine operating procedure in which everyone is rendered a suspect and as such is subjected to treatment once reserved for only the most serious of criminals. Now, let me tell you, even with that, even the strip search has become, and the body cavity searches have become off the chain. Supposedly, those are done back at the police station under discretion and with rules. A female could only be body cavity search, strip search by a female officer. Okay? That's how that went. By a female officer. There have been reports where people got, cavity searched on the side of a road at a traffic stop. Okay? That is a violation of the law. But when the law has been twisted, you no longer have a law. You don't have a law. No one is supposed to be, above the law, but the lawmakers have made it that they are above the law. S is for surveillance state. On any given day, the average American going about his daily business will be monitored, surveilled, spied on, and tracked in more than 20 different ways by both government and corporate eyes and ears, a byproduct of the electronic concentration camp in which we live. Whether you're walking through a store, driving your car, checking email, or talking to friends and family on the phone, you can be sure that some government agency, whether the NSA or some other entity, is listening in and tracking your behavior. This doesn't even begin to touch on the corporate trackers that monitor your purchases, web browsing, Facebook posts, and other activities taking place in the cyber sphere. And yes, in one downside of that, unfortunately, even your gaming consoles are snitching on you and tracking you. It is a known fact that they track the activity that you're doing on there. For case in point, some video games have to be you can only play them being connected to the internet because you're using the company's server to access the game. Now, even if you play offline, there are a lot of games that are offline. They don't need the internet to play. But what happens is your console or your gaming device actually sneakingly in the background is sending information to Nintendo or to Sony or to Microsoft or to Google about your gaming activity and what you're doing. Now, it falls under the so-called anti-piracy, laws, rules, whatever. So, like for instance, let's say you own more than one PlayStation console, whatever one is your main console, you can take any one of those games that are offline games, whether it be digital versions or physical versions, and you can play those offline, no problem. But if you're playing, let's say, a digital game or even a physical game on your secondary console, if that console is not connected to the internet, an error message will come up saying this game is about to shut down in 15 minutes because the license for the game could not be verified. If you're not playing this on your so-called main system, then you need to do that or connect this particular unit to the internet. A lot of you don't even know that, didn't even know that was happening. Yes, that happens. And it's even worse with Nintendo. Nintendo is monitoring not just your gaming activity, but your activity with the Switch, the Nintendo Switch exclusively. What does that mean? So let's say that you're playing the game in a way that Nintendo doesn't like, all right? The game will report back if your system is connected to the internet and snitch on you to Nintendo. Case in point, for those Animal Crossing players of you people out there that play Animal Crossing. Okay, so let's say you allow someone to come to your town and they can take your star trees. Well, guess what? Nintendo has shut all that down and said, no, we're not going to allow that to happen. You can't do that. All right? That's cheating. You can't do that, right? Here's what they're doing. Here's the tyranny in the gaming industry. And you may think that doesn't appeal to you because you may not be a gamer, but this right here shows you how they're doing what they're doing to people unaware. Peep this. So what will happen is your game, even if you're not playing an online game, but your system connected to the internet, it's reporting back to Nintendo what you're doing within the game and how you're playing. Technically speaking, any game that is single player offline, okay, you can do whatever you want to do, play how you want to play, even allow modding and cheat codes and all that. Okay. Any game, though, that allows competitive play online, if you use modding, even a modded controller in some cases, or cheat code, whatever, now that is considered cheating, and you can be banned for doing that. All right, that's considered cheating. They can ban you. Well, you don't have access to online anymore. And with Nintendo, it's worse. You won't have access to the eShop if they catch you cheating, right? Now, everyone knows that competitive play is an industry in and of itself. People can make a lot of money doing it. There are some people, that's what they do. They're professional gamers, and they make money doing that, okay? Nintendo, for those of you who don't know, is the granddaddy of cheat codes. Back in the day, they used to publish a magazine full of cheat codes for all of their games on the NES. And to this day, certain games, they even will every so now and then offer you a cheat code for the game. But a non-competitive online play game like Animal Crossing, they've been spending time and effort and resources to shut down any kind of fun that people are having with that game. And there's no online competitive play. There's no money to be made. All right. There's no tournaments. None of that. It's not like 2K, where literally you have a chance to win $250,000 playing 2K. Like, for real, not a joke for those of you who don't know about 2K. Even Madden. All right. Online competitive play games, money can be made. Reputations on the line, all types of other things on the line. Tangible and untangible. So they have to monitor that and make sure people aren't cheating because money's on the line. But with offline single player games where there's no competitive play, a person should be able to use cheat codes and mods and will do whatever they want. But game companies are cracking down on that and don't want you to do it. They're too lazy to do it themselves, and they don't want anyone else doing it either. So this is what tyranny extends even to the gaming console world. So those of you who don't know how that works, that's what it is. When your device is connected to the internet, it's giving feedback information about your gaming to the manufacturer, so they know what you're doing, and they can stop you, ban you, and all that stuff for non-competitive online playing games, which makes absolutely no sense. But this is where we are. This is where we are. That's why T is for tasers. Non-lethal weapons such as tasers, stun guns, rubber pellets, and the like have been used by police as weapons of compliance more often and with less restraint, even against women and children, and in some instances, even causing death. These non-lethal weapons also enable police to aggress with the push of a button, making the potential for overblown confrontations over minor incidents that much more likely. A taser shockwave, for instance, can electrocute a crowd of people at the touch of a button. Now, let me explain to you guys on the whole tasing, the non-lethal weapon thing. You may think, oh, it's just a little rubber bullet, it's just a little beanbag. Them things, not only do them things hurt, they leave big bruises and marks. A beanbag gun can knock a grown man off his feet. I've seen it. They hit you with that. They put that beanbag and that shotgun. They hit you. That's gonna knock you off your feet. You could be a grown 6'4", 250-pound man. You going down. Beanbags will knock you off your feet. Trust that. All right. Like Mom used to say, "Hey, be careful of that. You're gonna put your eye out." Rubber bullets can put an eye out. Absolutely. Those things hurt. They hurt more than paint guns. All right? They hurt. Them things are coming out, traveling like 200 miles an hour. Things hurt. And like I said, a beanbag joint will knock a grown man off his feet. That's the force that thing is coming at you. So if they shoot you in the head, anywhere in the head, they could kill you with that thing. Okay? Now, as far as tasing, we already know. We've seen the news on how many people have died because the police tased them. Police didn't know the dude had a pacemaker, or they had some kind of medical condition that made them susceptible to tasing, and they dropped dead. Okay? U is for unarmed citizens shot by police. No longer is it unusual to hear about incidents in which police shoot unarmed individuals first and ask questions later, often attributed to a fear of their safety. Yet the fatality rate of on-duty patrol officers is reportedly far lower than many other professions, including construction, logging, fishing, truck driving, and even trash collecting. Did you know that? Know the risk. All like Rakim said, know the ledge. All right, know the ledge. V is for viruses and forced vaccinations. What started out as an apparent effort to prevent a novel coronavirus from sickening the nation and the world has become yet another means by which world governments, including the US, can expand their powers, abuse their authority, and further oppress their constituents. With millions of dollars in stimulus funds being directed towards policing agencies across the country, the federal government plans to fight this COVID-19 virus with riot gear, gas masks, ballistic helmets, drones, and high-tech surveillance technology. The road we are traveling is paved with lockdowns, SWAT team raids, mass surveillance, and forced vaccinations. Now there's talk of mobilizing the military to deliver the forced vaccinations, mass surveillance in order to carry out contact tracing, and heavy fines and jail time for those who dare to venture out without a mask, congregate in worship without government's blessing, or reopen their businesses without the government say so. Welcome to the new normal. W is for whole body scanners. Using either X-ray radiation or radio waves, scanning devices in government mobile units are being used not only to see through your clothes, but to spy on you within the privacy of your home. While these mobile scanners are being sold to the American public as necessary security and safety measures, we can ill afford to forget that such systems are rife with the potential for abuses, not only by government bureaucrats, but by the technicians employed to operate them. X is for key score. One of the many spying programs carried out by the National Security Agency that targets every person in the United States who uses a computer or a phone. This top secret program allows analysts to search with no prior authorization through vast databases containing emails, online chats, and the browsing histories of millions of individuals. Y is for Eunice. Using your face, using your mannerisms, using your social media, and Eunice against you, you are now be traced back on what you buy, where you go, what you do in public, and how you do what you do. Facial recognition software promises to create a society in which every individual who steps outside into public is tracked and recorded as they go about their daily businesses. The goal is for government agents to be able to scan a crowd of people and instantaneously identify all the individuals present. Facial recognition programs are being rolled out in states all across the country. I warned of this back in 2013 on the late great Charlie McGrath's Wide Awake Radio. I told you that they were coming out with technology that was going to be able to keep tabs on every American citizen in real time with voice and video. Remember I said that? Those who've been with me the longest, I said that back then. People thought I was insane. They were like, no way. And now here we are. Not only did they do exactly what I told you they were going to do, they've taken it even to another step. They've taken it to another level. That wasn't the level. This is the new level. And finally, Z is for zero tolerance. We have moved into a new paradigm in which young people are increasingly viewed as suspects and treated as criminals by school officials and law enforcement alike, often for engaging in little more than childish behavior or for saying the wrong word. In some jurisdictions, students have also been penalized under school zero tolerance policies for such inane crimes as carrying cough drops, wearing black lipstick, bringing nail clippers to school, using Listerine or Scope, and carrying fold-out combs that resemble switchblades. The lesson being taught to your youngest and most impressionable citizen is this. In the American police state, you're neither a prisoner, shackled, controlled, monitored, ordered about, limited in what you can do and say, your life not your own, or a prison bureaucrat, politician, police officer, judge, jailer, spy, profiteer, etc. This is the reality that we must come to terms with. And this is that post 9/11 America we live in today. The government does whatever it wants without freedom, without constitution. We have moved beyond the area of representative government and entered a new stage. You can call it the age of authoritarianism or fascism or oligarchy or the American police state. Whatever label you want to put on it, the end result is the same. Ladies and gentlemen, we are and have been living under tyranny. The question is, what are you going to do about it? With that being said, you know what it is. PulseWaveTrading.com. Come over here and break bread with us. Know how to do what we do in these crazy times that we're living in. And remember, bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs get slaughtered. So remember to take what you can and give nothing back. And I'm out. Peace. Smash that like button. You know what it is.